Hey, what's going on, guys? Levi or Mr. Not Accurate here, bringing you a totally different video if you're used to my channel. This is going to be actually upgrading my CO2 system, my CO2 injection system in my aquarium. So I ordered a package from CO2Art. I'm not going to make this super like a tutorial, but I kind of just wanted to film and show you the fish tank so we could see the progress. Ignore the mess if you see the room, but this is just kind of the first initial look at the fish tank. So you see my reflection, it's a little dirty. But right now I'm rocking just a standard Fluval kit. I've had it before. It's just the one you can get at like the regular old pet store. And it's great for planted tanks. It can just be really expensive. It's not super expensive to get started, but you know, 50 bucks gets you this little kit. It comes with a little CO2 canister. Just like a 45 grams, and then you know you can get the little diffuser there, and it's not great. It's really not great at all, but it is okay to get started, and that's all we're doing here. But figured I might as well make the investment, so we can get into the unboxing and whatnot. But I'll show you the fish tank before we get started, just to show you. Okay, so I'm just going to try and record audio over this while I unbox and put everything together. But this is a CO2 regulator from CO2Art. It is their Pro SE series dual stage regulator with an integrated solenoid, so you can put a timer on everything. And this video is not sponsored, just, you know, get that out of the way. I just, you know, found their products online and I've, you know, heard good things, but now we're going to start installing it. So the first thing you want to do is you need to make sure your CO2 tank is off. That is crucial. If your CO2 tank is not off, then you're going to have issues. So that's the first step. And I don't want to make this too much like a tutorial, but I just figured I'd walk through my steps. So all you got to do once it's off is you just need to screw it on. However, this O-ring here is very important. It does come with an extra little O-ring. There is one. Also, my cat decides to stick her hand under the door. But there is an extra O-ring that it comes with, so just hold on to it, and you'll be set. It's just to make sure that you're not going to have any leaks. They do have in their tutorial a little more rubbery one. I don't know what to call it, but I don't think that it ships in the US version. I don't know. However, once you screw it on, you need to make sure that you have a wrench just to crank it down. This was like 10 bucks at, you know, your local hardware store. So if you don't have a wrench, you know, it's pretty cheap to go and get one. But just once you get it hand tightened, make sure you crank it down on there. Once it feels relatively tight, you should be all set. But that's just kind of what I did. And then also you're going to want to fill up your bubble counter here before you do anything. So the bubble counter is what you're going to use to count your CO2. I use distilled water that I put in there. You don't have to. You could just, you know, use your regular aquarium water or regular water. But I just used distilled to make sure there was going to be no minerals or anything there, just because you're going to have some stuff going through the tubes. And so I want to keep it as pure as possible. So I would recommend using distilled water, but you definitely don't have to. So because this ceramic diffuser has to sit in the tank for approximately 4 to 6 hours before you actually start the system, I'm just going to get this in here as quick as possible. My hands are clean, so they're not going to affect the fish tank at all. But we get this in here as quick as possible and just let it soak. You can run a bunch of CO2 through the actual diffuser instead of soaking it, but you know, I'd rather soak it. This one's running anyway. I've still got, you know, some CO2 left in there, so might as well run in as much as I can before I start using up my bigger tank. So we'll try and film and do this at the same time. So I'll probably want it somewhere around here is probably my best bet. We might move it eventually, but I do have a little air bubble tube thing coming down here. So if we find that there's not enough flow coming out of this does have sort of a wave-like flow though, where it comes around the other sides. So the force of the other bubbles will probably push some this way, and then diffusing in the tank all around is still good. But if I don't have enough flow coming from this side, I might just turn on that air pump just so we can actually get some CO2 up the other to this side of the tank, just so I can get that dwarf hair grass and everything growing. But yeah, it should be looking good. You know, I'll let that sit in there for a bit and we'll get this thing started up. Again, I didn't want this to really be a tutorial, so we just gotta, just wanted to show you me setting it up. But we'll get this all plugged in and whatnot. So an issue that I was kind of expecting to run into has happened. So we get the diffuser there. The tube runs up and over. I got it suction cupped. However, I didn't realize when placing the order that I only ordered 3 feet of tubing. And I could just use regular air tubing, but it's really not CO2 grade. So for the time being, I have this little U thing. I also didn't realize I'd get a bigger size of this. I just didn't look, I just ordered pretty quick. So it doesn't fit over the tank because this is only the, I think, 0.4 inches, or not sure the conversion of millimeters, but anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut some of that and then I'm gonna put this in here because all we need is just that little tiny bit, and I don't want to go get more tubing, so I'm just gonna cut this tube for now and just put it all up in here, and then this should work. If not, I could just run to the Home Depot or Lowe's and just get some food grade silicone tubing, and it'll work just fine. So we'll see, but I'll update you guys. So now we've got the solenoid is plugged in, which is great. I'm gonna plug that into a timer. I've got one laying around here somewhere, but I'll get that figured out later. Basically, I'm gonna have my CO2 running for 6 to 8 hours a day, and then we should be all set to go. I'm gonna take it slow, make sure everything is closed before we turn anything on. So this CO2 tank has been off the entire time. Before we do anything, made sure this was tightened. We'll make sure everything is off, and then when we turn it on, we should see that our pressure, our tank pressure, should go up to indicate that it's full, and then we should be able to adjust our working pressure to around, I think, 40. I'm gonna look that up before I do it. I'm pretty sure 40 is what's pretty set, pretty standard for fish tanks. And then we've got our needle valve, I believe is what it's called here. This will adjust our flow rate of the CO2 for our bubble counter here, and then we should be all set to go. So let's make sure everything's plugged in, and then we'll turn it on. We want the working pressure to be around 20 to 30 psi, but first we're going to open this. Everything is all set, so we'll open it fully. Hopefully there's no leaks. Oh no, wrong way. Okay. So, yep, we're all good there. And then I want this pressure, PSI, to be a little lower, I think. Okay, I've heard when it first goes up like that, if you let it run for a bit, it should be okay. It's not a bad PSI either way because we do have a nice diffuser. So let's see what. Oh no, we can adjust it lower, looks like. I'm gonna adjust this bubble counter. It'll push whatever water out. Perfect, so we can see a little bubbles coming out now. Okay, see how I didn't even realize, but see how that working pressure went down once we got it going? So, we can adjust it a little bit further now. But we'll let that run for a bit. And then we've got some bubbles. So, if we wanted it to be like super, super fine, we would let this run for 4 to 6 hours. But we can do the tried and true. Like run it, throw a bunch of bubbles there. Perfect. Okay, well, I am going to get this off completely right now. So everything is working perfectly, I think. We don't have any leaks. I don't hear anything. We don't see anything. So we're going to let We're gonna let this sit for 4 to 6 hours, and then we will update you afterwards. But first, first we definitely need to install our handy dandy drop checker kit, because I have been running my thing all day. So let's see if we're pumping this baby with way too much CO2. All right, so we're gonna have to let this stabilize for a couple hours. Right now we're looking like quite a bit, but it'll take a couple hours before everything gets all stable. We'll need it to be sort of more of a green color than a blue color. So we'll let this sit for a bit, and then again, we'll get you back in 4 to 6 hours from now. Okay, so it's been about 4 to 5 hours, and we finally got everything soaked, and it's all looking good. But before I show you the tank, I'm gonna show you what I figured out about this. So, the PSI here, it will drop a little bit once you, I don't know the right terminology, but depressurize essentially inside here, and you let some of it run out. It's gonna change your working pressure a little bit. So I like to sit around 25 to 30 is what's recommended. You can go up to 35 or 40, I believe, but I just like to set her a little lower. And then this solenoid here, I will connect it to a timer, and I'll have my CO2 running for about 6 to 8 hours a day, but I'm gonna figure out what's gonna work best for me. Right now I don't really have any fish to worry about in the tank, which is good. So once I have more fish in the tank, it's definitely gonna be more of an effect if I were to overdose with CO2. But enough of that, let's show you the tank. So it has now been just over 1 day of the new CO2 regulator running, and already we can see some growth back there in the Ludwigia. You probably won't be able to notice it, but you can see a tiny bit of growth on those little leaves in the back. Even on the Rotella there, you can see some of the roots are starting to come down quite a bit more, even just in the last day. But right now the tank does look a little sad, mainly because all these plants are still relatively new, so they're all mainly just still coming in. Like down here we can see some of the dwarf hairgrass is dying off, which is expected just because when you order it, the water parameters and everything, so you'll see some die off before things will start to grow. But I got some Alternanthera raynicki, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I got my the mushroom there, and it kind of doesn't really throw off the vibe, but we got to go with the mushroom. And if you guys want to see like an update video on the tank, just let me know. I'm going to plan on updating weekly, but if you'd like me to go over the plants and everything, I can totally do that. I'm very excited for the moss to grow in here. It all looks kind of dead for now, but hopefully the CO2 should help. So far everything's been running perfectly and I haven't had any issues at all. I'm going to plan on updating weekly on this tank. So if you want to see that, remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe. I'll definitely be updating you as I go along and as the plants grow in, so the tank doesn't look as sad. So remember to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and I hope you guys enjoy and are looking forward to more content.